Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the September 9th meeting of the Sebastian City Council. I call it to order. I have it on. Is it working? They said they can't hear me in the mic. You can now? Okay. All right. I'd like to call to order the September 9th meeting of the Sebastian City Council. If you please rise for the invocation by Pastor Seth Goldsmith of Community Coastal Church, and then for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Paris.
Let's pray. Dear Father, we come to you and we submit ourselves to you. We need your wisdom. We need your peace. Father, our community needs you. I pray tonight for our small businesses that you would help them recover. I pray that you would bolster them, that they'd find new ideas, new ways to make an income, new ways to grow their businesses here in Sebastian. I pray for children who are studying in different ways right now, and parents who are adapting to that, and teachers who are struggling through that. I pray that you keep everybody safe, that you'd fix the education that they're getting right now and make it just what they need. I pray for the people standing in front of me to get along, to work peaceably for our benefit. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with justice and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Dodd.
Here.
Vice Mayor Motti.
Present.
Councilmember Gilliams.
Here.
Councilmember Hill.
Here.
And Councilmember Paris.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any agenda modifications that anyone would like to make this evening? Hearing none, we're on to proclamations. We have three. I'm going to come down front. Can you hear me now from the mic? This proclamation is for Suicide Awareness Month. Is Colin Phillips here? Oh, that's on Zoom.
Yes.
On Zoom. Okay, I see now. All right. This is a proclamation for the 211 helpline. Proclaimed September as a Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. Recent CDC findings report that U.S. adults are having considerable are having considerably elevated adverse mental health conditions associated with COVID-19 pandemic, with additional impacts on younger adults, racial, ethnic minorities, essential workers, and unpaid adult caregivers. And whereas these populations reported having experienced disproportionately worse mental health outcomes, increased substance abuse, and elevated suicidal ideation. And whereas there is a call for public health response during the COVID-19 pandemic to increase intervention and prevention efforts, which increase community level efforts and strategies. And whereas the 211 helpline is that critical access point, providing individuals and families with guidance and crisis support via telephone or text anytime, day or night. And whereas 211 helpline is also the regional responder for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is at 1-800-273-TALK. 211 staff work 24 hours a day to prevent suicide, with a daily average of 126 mental health crises, in addition to 9 suicide concern calls daily. Therefore, I, Ed Dodd, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Sebastian, Florida, do hereby proclaim September as Suicide Prevention Month in Sebastian, and urge all citizens to be aware of the only telephone number they need to know is 211 to access 1,600 agency providers with wide-ranging services, which include mental health assistance during this difficult and challenging time. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Sebastian to be affixed this 9th day of September 2020. Thank you. Would you like to say something? Would you like to say something?
Thank you so much, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate you all letting me attend virtually with this, and good evening. My name is Colleen Phillips, and I'm the Community Relations Specialist for 211 Helpline in the Treasure Coast. And on behalf of 211, I'd like to thank the City Council and for recognizing September as Suicide Awareness Month and for spreading awareness about this real issue in our community. Since 1971, 211 is a free and confidential community helpline and a suicide prevention lifeline now available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to assist residents dealing with suicidal ideation. We offer mental health support and referrals to community-based resources to help them in their time of need. 211 is accredited both locally and nationally through the American Association of Suicidology as a regional responder for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. In 2019, 211 answered the call to over 3,700 residents of all ages in our service areas in their lives. This is an issue that's happening to residents in our community, and we thank you for your support in spreading the message that no one has to suffer alone in silence. We can be reached simply by dialing 211, texting your zip code to 898-211, or chatting through our website at www.211treasurecoast.org. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, this proclamation is for Constitution Week. I think there's 3 people who are going to come up from the back, and this is Delilah Daly and Amelia Daly. Is that correct? Also is Dr. Holly Hamilton here. She's on Zoom? Okay, good. All right. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good, okay. Constitution Week, September 17th through the 23rd, 2020. Whereas September 17th, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper, according to official recognition, this magnificent document, its memorial anniversary, and the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of the proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating the week of September 17th falls as Constitutional Week. Now, therefore, I, Ed Dodd, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Sebastian, Florida, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23rd, 2020 as Constitution Week in the City of Sebastian, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideas that the framers of the Constitution held in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. It's an important sentence: lost rights may never be regained. In witness thereof, I hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Sebastian to be affixed this 9th day of September 2020. Okay, ladies, would you like to say something? Yeah? Here. If you want to say something, come right up to the mic right here.
Thank you so much for supporting the Treasure Coast Society of CAR.
All right, thank you. Thank you. This was Dr. Hamilton, right? Do you have something you'd like to say? No. Oh, no.
Hi, thank you so much for supporting us and for supporting both the Treasure Coast Society, Children of the American Revolution, and the Pelican Island Chapter, the Daughters of the American Revolution, as we work together to further those ideals and support the Constitution. And we thank you so much for all that you're doing in the community, and we look forward to partnering with you with more things in the future. So thank you so much for this again.
All right, thank you. Don't go anywhere. You're on the next proclamation also. I gave them one, I think. Sorry. Give that to them. Did you get a picture? You did? Okay. Thank you. Okay, this is a proclamation for Inflammatory Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October 2020. Whereas inflammatory breast cancer, IBC, is a rare but very aggressive type of breast cancer in which the cancer cells block the lymph vessels in the skin and breast. And whereas individuals with IBC may experience symptoms such as redness, swelling, shooting pain, persisting itching, and warmth, which may appear virtually overnight. And whereas IBC usually grows in nests or sheets and is rarely detected by mammograms, the treatment of IBC differs from other breast cancer treatments. Therefore, an experienced physician is essential. And whereas increasing public understanding of IBC is the first step towards fighting this devastating disease. And the Hunt for Hope, Florida, was established to raise funds for research grants. The Hunt for Hope, Florida is an organization that is established to raise funds for research grants. And the 8th annual Hunt for Hope, Florida will be held virtually from September 26th to October 2nd. And therefore, I, Ed Dodd, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Sebastian, Florida, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Inflammatory Breast Cancer Awareness Month and urge all citizens to learn more about IBC. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Sebastian to be affixed this 9th day of September 2020. Would you like to address us on that?
Yes, thank you again. You guys are always so great. We are holding the Hunt for Hope this year virtually. We are going to be showcasing local businesses that support and continue to support this cause. 100% of the funds raised will go towards research for inflammatory breast cancer, which also supports triple-negative breast cancer. There's a lot of crossover. So we just appreciate the opportunity to get the word out, to educate people about it, and to know that anything that they donate does go straight to research. So we appreciate it. It's a lot of fun as well. It's a little different for us to host it virtually this year, but we all adapt as we have and as I'm here virtually with you at this meeting. So thank you so much. I encourage you to check us out on Facebook and come participate if you like. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, the consent agenda. There's a single item, which is approval of minutes of our July 15, 2020 special city council meeting. Does anyone have any modifications they'd like to make to those minutes?
No, sir. Move approval of item 7A.
We have a motion for approval by Councilmember Hill. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, seconded by Councilmember Gilliams. Any comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We have no committee reports, no unfinished business, so we are now down to public input. And I'll open this up for public input if you would like to come up and say something.
Good evening. My name is Grace Reed, Sebastian City. First, I want to thank Councilmember Hill and you, Mr. Mayor, for a fireworks show this past Saturday night. It was a wonderful thing. The residents were definitely in need of a reprieve from everything that has been happening this year, and I believe the city is finally on a path to normalcy and healing. I would like to just speak to the residents of the city of Sebastian regarding upcoming elections, both in November and in September. The City Council works for the residents of the city and not the other way around. Most important way for us to ensure the council is performing in our best interest is to be involved. That means join or attend various board meetings, attend city council meetings, and just let your voice be heard during public input. Email or call your council members or city staff, especially your city manager, who will be more than happy to listen. But most importantly, go out and vote. Don't just vote for a friend who maybe a friend recommends. Do your due diligence. Closely vet each candidate. Do they truly have our best interests at heart, or do they seem to have their own agendas or just be an extension of another? Don't assume that others will carry the torch. City elections happen every year, and not just during the national elections, but we as citizens must be involved. November elections will also reflect city, county, and state elections. Hopefully, this will be the last time that we have to address dysfunction and chaos in the City Council and the problems infecting the city, as well as these individuals will not only have been dismissed, but next week, by the grace of God, they will be duly recalled. Thank you.
Anyone else want to approach? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Russell Herman. I reside at 586 Redwood Court in Sebastian. I want to remind everyone here tonight and watching on City's TV channel what is important and why it is important to vote in the two elections that are looming, September 15th, November 3rd. Just 1 year ago, 3 incumbent council members were thrown off the City Council. Why? Because they angered the voters over their support for annexing the Graves Brothers property. 2, for their disregard for the public health impact of toxic herbicide sprayed along the canal. And 3, for conducting public business behind closed doors. Let me remind you of the successes the 3 new reform candidates have had. First, the state appellate court has squashed the annexation. So if the city wants to revive the issue, the City Council must open up the planning process, talk to the county, and listen to the citizens and the environmental community. Second, toxic herbicide spraying. The council has agreed to prepare integrated pest management plans so we can make better choices in managing our parks and recreation areas. And in due course, managing the aquatic weeds in the 8 miles of the canal, as well as city-owned ponds. However, the work to complete and implement these integrated pest management plans is far from over. Resuming toxic spraying is not an option and will not be an option. Third, on government transparency. We are a long way from seeing this happen in this City Council administration. We have 3 council members who have championed open government. Whatever new issues you can dream up, you cannot get away from tackling these 3 big issues. All eyes will be on the city in coming weeks and months, and expect to see continued progress. Without such progress, there will be other elections. Thank you for your attention to these critical matters.
Anyone else like to come up, please? Yes, ma'am.
The previous speaker spoke about 2 very important things, and I think those will be the only 2 things we're going to agree on. Michelle Morris, by the way, sorry. One was closed-door meetings, much like the April 22nd closed-door meeting. And transparency. I will reiterate, the April 22nd closed-door meeting where people were not allowed in and the doors were physically locked. Remember, September 15th is a very important day. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that lack of transparency and the closed-door meeting of April 22nd. I will see you in the polls on the 15th. Vote yes to recall all 3. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? Andrea, and she'll let her go first, then you can come up. Okay. You can stand behind her if you like. Queue up behind her. Just stay on the X's.
Hi, Andrea Ring, 407 Query Lane. Good evening, council members. Thank you I have moved on to the parish police board, so I'm not on budget anymore. I can talk about budget now. No breaking of the sunshine law here. So we need to have a better budget committee going. We need to be able to voice, the people need to be able to voice their voice at budget meetings. I was not afforded that opportunity at the last budget meeting. Larry refused to let me talk during an open motion of the floor. Not happy. And about the progress that has been made, I am very happy with what is being done right now with the subcommittee on the pesticides. You're doing a good job, and I hope it continues. I'm afraid that if council members change, the committee will go nowhere, and we'll be back to doing what we've always done, doing the spraying of Roundup in our canal system. So, for me, I want everybody to go out and vote, please, and I want you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir.
Mr. Mayor, can I interject for a quick second? I'd like to extend an apology to Mrs. Ring because I did watch that meeting and she was barely treated, not fairly. And I just want, me as a council member, I was disturbed by it and I want to apologize. I can't do it on behalf of the whole council, but I can do it on behalf of myself. I thought it was wrong. Thank you for showing up.
Sir.
Nelson McCollum, City Sebastian. I'd like to address some misinformation statements about the past annexation issue. One, if Sebastian doesn't grow, it dies. The population of Vero Beach has only increased by 400 people in the last 30 years. It hasn't died. It was simply happy to stay as it was 30 years ago. Sebastian could do the same. Number two, growth is inevitable. Growth is not happening on its own like the sun coming up. It's being forced on the community by city council and pushed by landowners and developers. Look at the city of Vero Beach. They don't want it, so it doesn't happen. It's not inevitable. Third one, we can control the growth with annexation. Who is the we in that sentence? Once the land is annexed, citizens will have no control over the population explosion. 3 city council votes will determine that. We all learned going through the last annexation that council isn't swayed by public opinion and public input. When politicians say controlled growth, they mean as much growth as possible, and nothing will stop that once annexation takes place. Number 4, the county will provide water and sewer. I talked to the county this week. The community planners have no plans to provide water and sewer to this land, which is outside the urban service area. Mr. Hill has been quoted in the past saying the county will provide water and sewer. He is not listening to the county officials. They only provide utilities to city property inside the urban service area. Number 5, Fellsmere will annex it if we don't. Not possible without annexing something else first. Fellsmere has no property bordering the Grace Brothers parcel at this time. Fellsmere city manager has publicly stated they have no interest in the land. The landowners using this statement as a scare tactic to promote Sebastian to annex it quickly. Number 6, the land will be developed by someone. Maybe, but current zoning is agriculture, and if the county changes it to residential, it is only zoned for 1 home per 5 acres. That's 40 times less than Sebastian's plan to have up to 8 homes per acre. So let the county develop it. It's better for population control and lessens environmental impacts. One good reason not to take it up again, annexation will not stand if challenged under Florida Statute Chapter 171. Florida law requires that annexations be contiguous and reasonably compact. Contiguous means a substantial part of the boundary of the territory sought to be annexed by a municipality is conterminous with a part of the boundary of the municipality. In Volusia County versus Deltona, an appellate court ruled an annexation that had only 1.6% conterminous border with the city was not substantially contiguous, meaning it did not have a substantial border area. If you combine the small Grace Brothers 2018 annex parcel with the current sought-after large Gray Brothers parcel, it only has a 1.2 conterminous border. You all knew this and attempted to do 2 annexations of continuous property from the same landowner instead of one large one because you knew the combined 1,180 acres as one plot would not pass this statute, and with only a small 438-foot conterminous border joining Sebastian. Any judge will see right through this end run around the statute and strike it down following case precedents set in Volusia County versus Deltona. Here's an example of what happened. This was all desired property, but you knew 438 foot of this little slim bit wasn't enough, so you annexed this one and then tried to join to that to get around that statute. And the worst statement of all, to just today, the Sebastian Daily says 73% of citizens favor annexation. That's a quote. But if you read the story, that poll was only voted on by 6,300 Sebastian Daily newsletter subscribers, not the whole population. 72% of them are in favor, which is 4,536 people. That is only 18% of the total population of Sebastian, not 72, as the misleading headline states. They know that, but they ran the false headline anyways. In ending, it's an old saying in politics, but it's so true. To know why something's happening, follow the money. 4,000 homes at $250,000 apiece could be $1 billion project with a B. Only people that benefit from that is the landowners, developers, builders, and any corrupt politicians. And I'm not saying we have any here, but they could benefit. Current residents just get more congestion and watch as their small coastal town gets erased by the votes of 3 city councilmen.
Sir, you got 30 seconds.
Pardon me?
30 seconds.
So voters, make your choices carefully on September 15th. It will decide what our population is in 2 decades from now. The time is now to stop the population explosion that will happen if future councils go down the road of the past ones. Remember why you did what you did last November. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Ma'am?
Sharon Herman, Sebastian. I just wanted to make just a couple comments from notes that I made. Environmentally, the sudden stop of the chemicals without a plan has actually set us back. And from what I understand, now we have to do even more to try and make up for it before we can actually go and move on to a more environmental friendly plan. Had there not been so much chaos in the council over the last 8 months, we may have been able to resolve many of these issues. But most of the council meetings were taken up with a lot of inconsequential information and arguing and things like that. As far as the annexation goes, please don't mix that in with the election with the 15th. All right, the annexation is currently not on the table. Mayor Dodd has already stated that he's willing to have more workshops and things like that should the annexation come back towards the city. But in the meantime, people still need to understand, if a person owns land and that person wants to sell land, and there's somebody out there that wants to buy that land, that's going to happen. And whether or not that land is part of Sebastian or part of the county or part of Fellsmere or part of Mars, it doesn't matter. Because sooner or later, when it gets developed, whoever the property is controlled by and zoned by is going to have the control over what happens to it. So people really, really need to think about that. Don't go back to the, oh, if Sebastian doesn't get it, then it won't be built, because that's the Kool-Aid that got us in trouble in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Is there anyone on Zoom?
I have 2 people on Zoom. Robert Stevens.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks for letting me speak.
Name.
I wanted to respond to a couple speakers this evening. One was, someone said that was a closed meeting that you guys are accusing us of having. That door was open, Mr. Dodd, and when the meeting started, the door was closed and they locked automatically. We didn't lock the doors. And you were invited to that meeting. And we had room for you and the policeman, and that was it. Getting back to our other issues here, you know, the last lady says, oh, they're gonna poison more. We anticipated this, and that's why we're scared to death of what's gonna happen. More Agent Orange type herbicides? We don't need this. We can do this without it. Whatever trumped up kind of stuff you've got going, people need to look at what Brevard County's doing, what the rest of the country's doing. Look at the lawsuits that are going on in California from Monsanto. How many billions of dollars? And Mr. Dodd, are you going to try to charge the taxpayers on the lawsuits that they start suing you for when they get sick from these poisons? Or is it the taxpayers are going to pay for their own lawsuit? It's very confusing how this money. And this $40,000 that you spent, $40,000 you spent to have the election a day early? I don't understand any of this stuff. This is very confusing. But don't, please, to the public, don't let them start spraying poisons again in your canals and on your ballparks, you know? Philadelphia's suffering from ballparks being sprayed for 20 years, and now their kids are all coming down with cancers. I don't know if you know anybody that's had cancer or anybody that's dying from some sort of lung ailments, but these poisons are terrible, and that's what they cause is lung ailments. Please, Mr. Mayor, look close. Don't do this. That's it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir.
Andrea? Andrea?
All right, while you're trying to get her, I'll let this gentleman speak. Then you can see if you can connect to her. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Nunn. I just want to react to a couple comments. First of all, I think the number was 6,600 people responded to that Sebastian Daly poll. If I'm correct, 3,500 people voted 3 council members in last November. That's nearly twice the number that chose the 3 council members in the last election. Nearly twice the amount of people said they want the annexation. 26% of the people last year said they wanted annexation because they believed all the lies, the mistruths, and the other stuff that was put out there. The truth is out. People understand what's really going on. People understand the real situation now. I just encourage everybody to get out September 15th, vote, do your duty, do your research, and make a good choice.
Thank you. Can you get Andrea now?
Andrea, can you hear us? There we go.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, terrific. Good evening. I was not going to say anything tonight, but after that last speaker, the one before Christopher Nunn, I have to respond to Mr. Stevens' comments. Mr. Stevens needs to go talk to the state attorney's office because apparently they think there was something wrong with that meeting as well as Judge Kroon. So that meeting that was held behind closed doors is still considered, being considered as a violation of the Sunshine Law. It hasn't been litigated yet, but it's still pending. So to say that it was open, it wasn't open to me. It was canceled as far as I knew. It was canceled as far as all of the city manager and all the charter officers. None of them were invited to come. So that last statement about it being an open meeting is a bunch of baloney. So please don't buy that Kool-Aid. And everyone, please get out and vote on the 15th. There are 8 candidates. And I agree with the fact that you need to vet each and every one of them. And let's start off with the fact that none of them want dirty water. I have never, ever heard a candidate say, oh, hey, give me some of that Flint, Michigan stuff. I really want to have that, what they got. No one wants dirty water. So vet the candidates. Everyone, go vote. Go vote. September 15th is very important. And the next election in November is very important also. Now that you found out that all city elections are important, I expect to have high voter turnout each and every time. So don't miss this election coming up on the 15th. That's less than a week away. And by the way, if you want to drop off your absentee ballot, you can go to any of the polling stations. They will have a box for you to drop it off there on the 15th, election day, or you can drop it off at the supervisor of elections office. I find it very inappropriate for the folks who chose to tell you how to vote. That's not for us to say, and it's inappropriate. So anyway, see you on the 15th, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the fireworks. I saw them actually from my house. I can't believe it, and I live a mile away from the river. Thank you again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ma'am?
No, sir, not on Zoom.
There's a third one on Zoom? No, okay. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Patty Sullivan, resident of Sebastian for 9 years, and I have attended a number of meetings online, but this is my first one in person, and I'm hoping to attend a lot more in the future with my family, with my 15-year-old daughter and my husband. And I want to thank the Recall Group for getting things going here in our city and stepping into the gap, and also waking a lot of us up. We've been involved in a lot of different ways, state-wise, county-wise, and bureau, but as Sebastian citizens, I just want to say I represent families with children, and I have talked to a lot of families with children, and I want to thank my father-in-law lives here in Sebastian. He's in his 80s. He retired here, came down with us from New York 9 years ago, a little bit after that. But it has been the senior citizens that have led the way, and I want to thank them for doing that, even though I'm in my mid-50s. But I want to thank them, but I'm also believing that families with young children and teenagers, they're waking up as well, and I've been speaking to a lot of them, and they plan on getting more and more involved. And I want to thank you for leading the way. And this group has made a big impact in our community, because one of the best things that I saw happen in this group is you had liberals and you had conservatives, you had Republicans and you had Democrats and you had independents all come together for one cause. And we may disagree on a lot of things, but we agree on one thing about this vote, voting yes on the recall next Tuesday. And again, I just want to thank you all for staying true to this process and representing us. And I just want to say one other thing. When our representatives call themselves our leaders, we know someone has not read the Constitution. The Constitution is becoming more and more important and critical, not only in our nation, but in our city. And I, for one, have been reading it. I, for one, have pulled out the charter of this city to start paying more and more attention. And it's important that we recognize that we don't put the cart before the horse, that representatives are to represent us, not to call themselves. I want there to be leadership, but it needs to be a representative leadership. And Mr. Hill, Mr. Dodd, I want to thank you. Mr. Mowdy, Mr. Gillums, and Pamela Paris, I want to thank you for helping to be a part of the process of waking everybody up. And I'm believing that this beautiful town of ours is going to continue to set the pace in our community and in the nation, and I'm very proud of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Okay, no one on Zoom. All right, I'm going to close public input. We're now on to new business. Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, member of council, this is an amendment to our original spending plan for the COVID, the first 25.
Can you hold on a second? Barbara, is there someone on Zoom with an open mic? It just went away, whatever it was. It was someone in the background talking, so. Okay, sir, go ahead.
And so we weren't getting as much participation in the business plan that we had submitted. So we've talked to the county, and they have instituted a rental and mortgage abatement program. And so we asked them, I had a meeting, actually a phone conference with them today to discuss how we're going to look at going into phase 2 money. We have to get rid of phase 1 money, or a substantial portion of it, and they need to know what we want to do to try to get this money spent. There's another $20 million coming if we can get this money in the hands of the people that need it. And we feel that the rental abatement and the testing, increasing the testing, and the mortgage assistance are ways that we can, 1, help the community, and 2, help the people that are hurting and try to stop the evictions if they happen to come. So the county has a program where it's $1,500 a month for up to 3 months. One of the things I talked with the county too was to be able to piggyback maybe with their program and give the Sebastian money into that program, and they would administer it, so we wouldn't have 2 administration fees, because the city would have to hire people to run this program. It's just too large, it's too cumbersome, and we don't have the staff to do it. So we would be paying administration fees and staff fees, which would take away from funds, or we can partner with the county and their rent and mortgage abatement. And we haven't worked out all the details how we're going to do that. Vero Beach did it with their business grant program, and it seemed to work well. That's the only thing I'm suggesting at this point is we talk about partnering with the county on the mortgage. And then if we get phase 2 money, we'll have to be able to allocate that money. What I'm going to ask you all to let me do is be able to move that money, because as I need to and work with the county, we don't have very many meetings before December 30th to bring things back to council every time we get money. We can set the parameters for these types of things, but we need to be able to, we can talk about it on the 23rd if you'd like, because the county's going to talk about theirs on the 22nd or 23rd as well on their meeting, on how they're going to spend their additional funds. So, but for the rest of this $924,000, we've reallocated monies, $40,000 for supplies and equipment, $80,000, which was COVID sick leave payments. We've spent the majority of that, $280,000 for 1,500 virus self-testing kits. The original, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit, is the original plan was we were going to buy the kit, the inexpensive kit, then we were going to have to hire a nurse practitioner, we were going to have to hire a lab, we'd have to find a way to get them to it, and our HR director found a self-test kit. It's all prepackaged, we hand it to them, it's pre-labeled, pre-mailed, it goes to them, they get the positive or negative test back, and then like you said, Mayor, you found the COVID contact tracing that you wanted to talk about, and I'll let you address that. But this way we can at least get this out to our elderly and the most susceptible to the COVID first, and then see how it goes. But I'd ask council to consider this spending plan and allow me to submit a new section A to Exhibit A to the county for their consideration so we can get this moving.
Okay, how much of the small business grant money have we allocated?
So it's $330,000 in here. We're up to $320-some thousand now.
We've actually allocated $320.
We had it at $700, but we reallocated with this reallocation. It's at $330. But Ken tells me today that we've already spent $320,000, which is pretty awesome. So we can adjust some of these numbers if you like.
Are there any applications that we haven't processed on that?
Right now, I've got 12. They've been coming in like 1 or 2 a day. I've got 12 that are yet to be completed as far as review.
Okay. So you could now how would you buy less test kits, for example, to satisfy those 12, or how would you?
I would probably at this point take a little bit of money out of the rent and mortgage relief. If the business money starts going out, 1,500 test kits isn't going to go very far.
I know, and I guess from my perspective is the test kits are great, and the reason I went out and found this, and all the council members, I put a copy of this at your desk, is that testing people without contact tracing is everything I'm reading is saying that really doesn't gain a whole lot for you. But so we can, with each test kit, provide a copy of this. And this basically is the state health department's contact tracing system. I don't think they have a ton of money, so I'm not 100% sure they do all this contact tracing, but they say they will. And at least it gives the people we give test kits with an opportunity to actually get contact tracing done if they find positive. But I think I don't know how many people in our residents of Sebastian that have mortgage or rent issues right now, but it would seem to me it would be higher than we could satisfy with the $190,000.
Mayor Dodd, if I could jump in on
Yes.
that, I would suggest that 1,500 test kits for $280,000 doesn't seem like a really good use of that funding, and I would much rather see that go toward helping with some rent or mortgage relief. I mean, 1,500 test kits for $280,000. I mean, that just to me doesn't seem like a real good way to spend the money. And I don't know how many positive people we have in Sebastian right now, but I know the number's not very high.
I know we could come back to testing if you allocate the funds, but you don't do the test kit process right now. You just hold off a little bit on that, and then see what the response is on the rent abatement and mortgage abatement, and then additional small business stuff. We could actually purchase those test kits November, right, and then still be within the time frame.
We can, but this money really needs to be completed by September 30th, because by October 15th, I have to send a report to the county, and they have to send it to the state saying how we utilize this first 25% before they'll release the other 75%. So I can't wait until November to spend this money.
Okay, so you're saying you have to spend this $924,000 by September 30th?
I have to get it, I have to do my best to get it spent, because if we tell the state that we didn't get this first money spent, we're going to have a hard time getting the other 75%. If you couldn't spend this, what makes you think you're going to spend the other 75?
And we're not going to get those funds until after the first of the year, right?
No, it has to be, though, we don't know when we're going to get those funds, and those funds have to be spent by December 30th.
Okay, so we'll get those, assuming we get them, we'll get those funds quicker than, I mean, we should get those funds in October, assuming we get them.
Well, that's going to depend on the state, and that's our challenge. So the challenge is the same people who review your reports for your FEMA grants are also the same ones who are going to review the reports for this money.
Okay. Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
You know, I mean, I don't know if there's any way we can allow the city manager to utilize these funds as he sees appropriate going forward until they need to be spent. I hate using that term. We got this money, we need to spend it. I hate that, but we want to make sure we spend it wisely. So if there are, you know, and I would guarantee there are people in this community who are dreading the day that the governor releases or allows for people to be removed from their homes. Now, that's going to be a sad day for a lot of people. So, you know, we have monies available to help folks out in that regard. Then I'd much rather see us utilize it that way. Is there any way we could use it for assistance in utilities or any of those other things, or is it just the rent?
So utilities are very limited. They specifically prohibit the use for municipal service utility fees such as water, sewer. There is limited use for public utilities. You could pay like an FP&L bill, but you couldn't pay a municipal electric bill.
Sure.
It could be used for.
You could pay county water, but you could pay.
You can't pay for county water. You can't pay for county sewer.
Okay.
You can use it for like Florida Power and Light.
Right. Well, Mayor Dodd, I mean, would it be feasible or acceptable to the county or state for us to allow you the ability to adjust the funding in these categories as you see appropriate based upon the need going forward? If we get to the end of September and we have $280,000 to spend on test kits, then maybe we go about that. But if we get to September and we utilize more funds in the rent or the small business grants than we had anticipated, then we buy less test kits.
So I can answer that question this way: if I reallocate funds from one fund bank to another fund bank, and I get the county to sign off on the amendment, which we have it sitting there waiting for this to get approved, they turn it around very quickly. That's all I need to get the state to accept our amendments. Is the county has to approve it, and then once we sign the amendment, and you've given me the authority to sign the exhibit or the agreement. So
it sounds like September the 26th, you could approach the county and say, okay, now I need to buy 1,000 test kits in order to get to the point where I need to get. Is that reasonable that you could do that?
Yes, if council allows me that flexibility.
I don't have any problem giving him that flexibility.
Right, and then we also have another meeting before that.
23rd.
So we have a meeting on the 23rd where we could have another adjustment to make whatever allocations we need going forward. So yeah, I would prefer seeing something more in the assistance for the residents.
You got anything you want to say about this?
I think the flexibility is in our favor right now.
Okay. Councilmember Gilliams.
Yeah, looking at the Indian River County CARES Act funding agreement on page 3, and it has a list of expenses of actions to facilitate and compliance with COVID-19 related public health measures, such as, are you familiar with that document?
Yeah, I've read that document.
You read that document?
Yeah.
There's a list of things there, Mr. City Manager, that I could see these funds being utilized for. Expenses for food delivery to residents, including, for example, senior citizens and other vulnerable populations. Distance learning, including our technical improvements. I'm not sure if we got any feedback from the schools as to making sure that our children do have the ability to stay home and do their classes online. Improve telework capabilities for public employees. This one caught my eye. Expenses for care for homeless population provided. And I know for a fact there are people living in their cars. So to me, it was just very disturbing to see money spent for, well, I'm not going to get into that, but expenses for care for homeless populations to mitigate COVID-19 effects and enable compliance, public health precautions. I think that there are people that are struggling with their rent, and I thought that was good that you had that in there, the rent and mortgage relief. I think sending that over to the county and let them administer it would be a mistake, because I think that would not get to our population and our citizens in Sebastian. I think that maybe you can work something out with the banks and through the realtors where they can get a letter from the bank saying that 2 to 3 months behind on their mortgage, and if they get something from their landlord and it's witnessed and executed, a document that's executed properly, we can help these people stay in their homes. I'm not happy sending any money back. I cringe when we say that, because I've always was a firm believer in if you have extra money, you should send it back. But this is unprecedented times, and I think we need to find a way to also look for some of those businesses that are not set up with a commercial storefront. There are some businesses that, and I'm not sure how you can figure this out, that are operating out of their homes that are taking a financial hit. I'm not sure how you can measure that, where we can get something to them as well. So I'm open for a lot of ideas. I think that this is narrowed to just a few things that I see you have on the list for the transmittal. But those are some of the ideas that I have. I don't know if you want to incorporate them or not. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
If I could, I'd move approval of the revised spending plan while allowing for some leeway with the city manager to make adjustments as he sees fit going forward, and request that on the last meeting of the month that he brings back a revised plan based upon what has been spent and how it was spent.
Okay.
That's a motion.
All right. That's a motion. I'll second that. Councilmember Paris, I didn't ask you if you had any comments, so there is a motion on the floor, but now you can have comments if you like.
Thank you, Mayor Hill, Mayor Dodd. I have to agree with Councilmember Hill that I don't think the testing kits are, they're a little expensive for the way we could help the community with the money otherwise. And I like the idea that we can review this on the 23rd. So, yeah, I would second the motion. I do have a question for Mr. Kilmore. Those 12 applications pending, is that the end? They're still being accepted for these small business grants?
We advertised the program as being expiring on September 30th. So we are still accepting the applicants up to that time.
Okay, thank you, that's all, thank you.
All right. Any other comments on the motion? Is there any public input on this? Yes, ma'am. Would you wait 1 second? That mic is not clicking. Let's see if you can talk again, see if it's got it.
Sherry Matthews,
Now we
Sebastian.
got it.
I wanted to applaud the efforts of everyone sitting up here, and I reached out to Mr. Carlisle because I too was concerned on the revision when I saw a $75,000 program versus a $280,000 increase on test kits. I think that the relief program, the CARES Act, where we're headed, is a tremendous small business sustainability and also for these renter mortgage reliefs. And I applaud in the efforts that you're putting forward in this in a time-sensitive manner, and I hope that you move to approve this because I do believe that the city is in dire need of some type of relief. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything they want to say?
Mr. Mayor, can you get the clerk to read back the, after this gentleman's finished speaking, get the clerk to read back the motion, because I really didn't hear it on this end of the room.
Okay.
Thank you.
Christopher Nunn, Sebastian, Florida. I had a question about the business grants themselves. I know right now you're required to be a Sebastian business. You're required to be a Sebastian resident. Are there any, we have a lot of Sebastian businesses for people that don't actually live here, but they're still a part of our community. Are there any modifications that can be made to allow a business in Sebastian apply without being a Sebastian resident as an owner? I just think there are many businesses suffering as part of our community.
Ken, would you like to respond to that?
That's not the one.
Yes, actually, that's not correct. A business owner that has a commercial physical location, regardless of where he's from, is eligible for the business grant. Where it came in that the residency requirement, being a city of Sebastian resident, is for those employees that work for that business person.
Yeah, that's the $500 add-on for each employee who's impacted by the, who is employed by the business, but they have to be residents of Sebastian to receive that.
Oh, great, that's great information, because I think there are confusion about that fact that people think they have to be a Sebastian resident as well as a Sebastian business owner. So good, thank you.
All right. Anybody out there who's listening, if you own a business in Sebastian that qualifies under the program, you can live in Vero and still apply for the Sebastian grant. Yeah. Anyone else want to speak? Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
I have one person
okay,
on Zoom.
on Zoom. Okay, bring him forward.
And before you call
yeah, I'm going to have the clerk read it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Andrea Coy, City of Sebastian. Just a quick question for the mayor and all of council. The last time you were voting on grants, apparently a couple council members decided it was okay to file for the grant that they approved. I would ask that if you are considering applying for a grant, that you consider doing the right thing this time and declare a conflict of interest. I think the last round of grants and people voting yes and then running right out and grabbing them up presented a great conflict of interest. So if any of the council members this time around think they might be applying for this grant, check with the city attorney, and it may be a conflict of interest. Please. I can't understand how you can vote yes for something and then run right out and get the money. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk, could you read the motion that Councilmember Hill made, please?
Okay, Councilmember Hill, the first part, you
I can restate if you like.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
it's no problem. It's easy because I wouldn't expect that you would type it verbatim at this time. I'm sure you go back to the tape to look at exactly how these things were all written out. So it would be foolish to expect that you would type verbatim exactly what I said, especially as much as I ramble. So I apologize for that. But you can go back to the tape and make sure it's correct at the end. But the motion was to approve the revised spending plan while allowing leeway for the city manager to make adjustments to the line items based upon the need from the public and return back to us on the 23rd with a report or another revised plan. Is that how you remember it, Mr. Dodd?
I got you that time. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. I've got a comment on it.
Okay, and I seconded that motion. If there's any comments, go ahead.
Yeah, looking at the revisions here, 280,000 for the virus self-testing kits. Is that the intent, Mr. City Manager, to go in that direction with that, or?
What I'm hearing from council is to put more of that money towards the rent and mortgage relief, and then if that doesn't transpire, then bring money back into the testing kits.
Okay.
I'm going to need to move some money, it looks like, into the business grants and move the remainder into the rental and mortgage relief, and then evaluate that before the 23rd and see how that goes. If we need to spend the money, we can reallocate it to the test kits. So we'd remove the test kits, allocate probably another 50,000 into the rental, into the small business, and the remainder to 230 into the rent and mortgage, and then see how that goes through the process.
Right.
That was my take on council comments.
Okay, I'm happy to see that. I don't know if we want to, and you feel comfortable with letting the city manager make that decision, or do we want to just give?
Right now, it's in such flux. Well, the truth, I feel comfortable allowing him to make that decision as we flow through, because this is one of those things where we have some time-sensitive stuff. He can come back on the 23rd, but at least it gives him the flexibility to try to do some things right now, so I don't have any problem with that.
I mean, I'd like to see a good chunk of that money go towards rent and mortgage relief, at least a minimum of 100,000 out of that 280.
I think he understands what we're telling him to do. I've heard him say that, so I'm comfortable with it. He'll properly do that.
What I had suggested, Mr. Mayor, if I may, is 50,000 of the 280 would go into the small business grants to cover what we may have coming in, and then the remainder would go into the rent and mortgage. So 230 would go into the rent and mortgage.
Gotcha.
And then that would be, if that doesn't fly, then we can come back and buy test kits to get the money spent properly.
And if you get more small business applications that come in or approved, you can always move money from one to the other to cover those. So, because with this motion, you'll have flexibility to do that.
I'm good with that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
And I will tell you, I've seen the process that the county's using. It is a charitable organization that's processing their rent and mortgage applications. They're doing a fantastic job, and so I have no qualms whatsoever in allowing the county. They could probably even start this within a day or two in actually processing applications from residents of Sebastian.
Here's the dilemma. I'm on the Affordable Housing Committee, and I see how the county handles things when people come down there looking for grants to rehabilitate their homes. And I want to make sure that these funds are expended here in this community.
The county is not actually processing their rent and mortgage relief program. It's being processed by a nonprofit organization that has a great reputation, and they're doing a really good job of getting money to people who need it. Vice Mayor Mark, did you have something you want to say?
I was wondering who that organization is.
It's the
I don't recall the name off the top of my head.
intermediate something. It's actually housed. They have a building that's blocked from the county office buildings where they're in there. So
but here's the problem, Mr. Mayor. It's first come, first served, correct, with the county?
No, sir. This money will be allocated in a pot of money for us. So right now, if I may, Mayor, I don't mean to overstep. But let me try to explain. Right now, even with a small business grant program that we're running ourselves, we have to contact the county and they have to contact us, so we don't have duplication of efforts. In other words, one person didn't get money from us and the county. This is a much larger problem when you get into this one, trying to verify that someone who didn't pay their rent is going to get the rent check and pay the mortgage, pay the landlord, and trying to manage that. They've already got the system down. and they already have the system to double check that someone in the county didn't apply in the city, and the city didn't apply in the county, so they can already check to make sure there's no duplication of funds. That system's already in place. We haven't worked out the final details of going with the county. I'm leaning that way because I think trying to reinvent this process is not going to be good in trying to get this done.
And I agree with you, but I just want to make sure that the funds that are allocated to this city, to this community, is geographically allocated to our area through the county and let them do the...
Of course.
That's what I'm getting to.
And that's the way it will work. So the funds that we put into the pot isn't going into a pot to go to everybody. It's going into the pot to go to the city.
See, that's what I wanted to hear. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any comments? Let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Motti?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilliams?
Yes.
Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Paris?
Yes.
And Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Just for the record, just also, I did fill out a disclosure form, and I'll turn it in. Not that I anticipate one, but I'm going to turn it in anyway.
Okay, so let me stop you right there, just to make
if you
sure.
want me to pull my vote
understanding
back,
is that if you anticipate applying for this new program, that you have to abstain from voting.
No, I don't anticipate applying for this program that you revised, but I wanted to get this in there, and if you want me to withdraw my vote, I will do that.
I would like for you to abstain from voting, and you work that, and that you notify the city attorney that you're abstaining from voting on this.
Let the record show that I filled the form out and I'm abstaining. Thank you.
Okay.
After voting yes.
May I? Yes, that's the correct procedures prior to the vote. Councilmember Gilliam can pronounce what technically what that issue is, the nature of the conflict, and then subsequent to that, within 15 days, he has 15 days to file that. The clerk then will have to put that, whatever he files, to put that in, attach it to the minutes, incorporate into the minutes subsequently. But he should abstain, and he should not participate in any discussion.
Okay, so would you recommend that that I recall that and we revote it and he do that?
That would be more appropriate, and also refrain from any discussions is also my recommendation.
Okay, so I am going to recall Councilmember Hill's motion since I voted in favor on it.
We already had a vote. It's already been voted on.
I can recall it in the same time frame.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure we get this thing correct here. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so I would like to recall that. I think I need a vote to recall it, do I not?
I think the issue is everyone wants to reconsider based on what Councilmember Gilliam just stated. Just reconsider it. It would be a majority vote, and then just take the motion again. Okay. And then vote with him abstaining this time.
Okay, so I'm going to recall that. I would like to make a motion to recall the previous question. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
And let's do a roll call on that recall, please.
Do I include Councilmember Gilliams?
No, on the recall you can.
Councilmember Gilliams?
Oh my God.
But you're voting yes, right? To reconsider, to recall? Yes, to recall. Yes. Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Motti?
Yes.
Okay, I want to kind of apologize to everybody for doing that, but I think if we need to make this legal, and the only way to make it legal is to do it correctly, so
Mayor Dodd, I would suggest that it's not being done correctly now. Because there are procedures for abstaining, and the way you abstain is prior to any discussion on an issue, or the meeting, quite frankly, you would have a discussion with the city attorney, have a discussion with that attorney, and discuss with him why it is you feel you should abstain. The city attorney would then give you the advice as to whether or not you should abstain. At that point, then you would report that you're going to abstain. You would then not have any input in the discussion of the item, and then you would not vote on the item. Within 14 days, that person would then provide to the clerk a written document reasoning why the abstention was made. Now, I'm just making it clear that this is already not correct, but I will go along with the way it's being done. Now, I will make a motion, if this is what you want, to approve the revised plan while leaving leeway to the city manager to make adjustments as he sees fit and report back to us on the 23rd whether or not there needs to be another adjustment.
And I'll second that. Mr. Annan, would you like to, for the record, would you like to make any statements?
Well, no, I was just going to clarify that it is correct. Prior to the vote, the council member in this state should probably state the nature of what that potential interest might be. Subsequently, within 15 days, obviously he abstained from the vote and participation. Subsequently, he has within 15 days to file it with the clerk, state more specific in that form, I guess it's Form 8 or a memo, what that conflict might be, and then that needs to be incorporated into the minutes. I think what the council is trying to do here is trying to just correct that for the record, which council can do that, and take another vote. I don't have an issue with that.
Okay. Mr. Gilliams, do you have anything you'd like to say about this motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
I have discussion on this issue if he's abstaining.
I'm sorry?
Mayor Dodd, we have a motion.
I'm not talking about him talking about the motion. I'm asking him to abstain.
Yeah.
Right,
And I did disclose to the clerk before I came in here, telling her that I would be needing a form to fill out.
Let's don't get caught. Look,
Let me explain myself. I requested the form before I got here a few days ago. I asked her to have it here. I thought I was following procedure by going to a charter officer, and I thought maybe she would contact the attorney and let him know that I had the form.
Councilmember Gilliams, let me correct something here. At our last meeting, it was very succinctly and clearly laid out what the abstention process is by Councilmember Hill. There was no confusion about when he laid that out. So you quite frankly should have known what that process is. I'm trying to clean this up. If you were going to abstain, would you state the reason that you are abstaining from this vote, please?
Because I've already received funds for my business, and if there's additional funds that are being put out through the business thing here, I want to disclose up front that I've already received funds already, and if they allocate more funds for the small businesses because they need to get rid of the funds, I don't want to have a
So you've already applied and received a grant for the small business, and you're anticipating applying again?
And I was told when I did it that because this was emergency funding from the federal government, it didn't apply. That's why I didn't file it. But I'm going to play it on the safe side. I'm going to file it just so it's here. I want to make sure everything's done correctly. That's all.
So you're abstaining because you anticipate filing an additional grant for your small business. Is that it?
It could be a conflict. Yes, I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
Okay. And the reason is that you anticipate filing another grant for your small business?
No, there could be additional funds he's got in there. Sometimes if they have extra funds available, they'll redistribute to the existing businesses that already got funds.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I think the council members already stated sufficient facts.
Okay. All right.
I think
You okay with that?
Thank you very much.
Let's have a vote, please. Roll call.
Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Paris?
Yes.
Mayor Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Motti?
Yes.
And Councilmember Gilliams is abstaining.
Okay. City Attorney matters.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. If I can, I'm going to ask the council just for indulgement, allowing me to complete what I have to say. If you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer it. But I have just a lot of information I want to put out, and I want to make sure I explained it correctly. I was asked during the last council meeting, 26, councils gave me direction. It was 5-0 was the vote to actually go out and get an opinion from the Commission on Ethics on whether or not, I'm not going to go into the details. It's explained in quite details in the minutes of August 26, argued by or placed in the minutes by Councilmember Hill, pretty much asking me specifically or the council to get an opinion. What I got was several options, and I need some more clarity, and I apologize, but I don't have an answer for anyone right now, but just bear with me for a second. The formal opinion, the only way you can get a formal opinion from anybody, especially from the Commission on Ethics, is from acts that have not occurred. That's the only way they can give you an opinion, and that's the only way they can give you guidance. In this case, the act had already occurred. The only way the second option would have been is to file what's called a CE, Charlie Echo 50 form, which is to be an official complaint. And at the end, I'll tell you what my recommendation is. But I do want to get into a little bit of detail about what that complaint is and the potential liability, if anything, that we might have. What we have is the act, in this case, the act, since it already occurred, what Councilmember Hill placed in the August 26 minutes were 3 specific charges. One dealing with voting conflict, as Florida Statute 112-3143, subsection 3. Misuse of public position, that's Florida Statute 112-313-6. And the third one is disclosure or use of certain information. That's a Florida Statute 112, 313.8, and he very eloquently placed it in the records, and it's easy pretty much to cut and paste without making much changes to it. However, at this point, I need direction from council, because what council told me is to get an opinion, and the opinion is not something that we can do at this point in time. The only thing we can do is file a complaint, which will not be my recommendation, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. The other issue that we have here is, and I need to make council aware, if anybody, not even council, will just go ahead and educate the general public. If anyone files a complaint against any of the city board members, there is an issue that if the complaint fails, i.e. if it's dismissed, then the respondent in this case will have an opportunity, doesn't have the right, but he has an opportunity to argue that he wants his attorney's fees and costs. That will go before DOHA, the Department of Office of Administration hearings, and you will go before an administrative law judge in which the case will be argued. The issue there would be, it's really a high burden of proof to show that we did something wrong or anyone did something wrong. And what the respondent would have to prove is that the person, the complainant, was acted in reckless disregard for the truth and actually contained false allegations in the complaint. So it's a pretty high burden. Doesn't mean it cannot be proven. That's all part of the CE50, and I'll be more than glad to share that CE50 with that disclaimer in the back and all bold for everyone to see. So I need to make council aware that potentially, if you want to go that route, there could be an issue if, in fact, DOHA rules against council for acting reckless and disregard of the truth. My recommendation is not to go this route against our council member. My recommendation, as you guys have done in the past, you can censor people like you've censored in the past. That might be a more appropriate way to handle it, but that's up to you. I stand here. Whatever direction you give me to do, I will do it, but pretty much that will be my recommendation. Nothing further.
Yeah, Mayor Dodd, if I could. Yeah, I had a conversation with the city attorney, and although I do disagree a little bit with him, I believe he is the city attorney, and I believe that his advice is a lot more than what I believe. So I'll go with his advice, and I believe that his advice is correct. And I think that, there's really no need to potentially put ourselves in line for more litigation and potential costs in the future when the citizens of Sebastian are going to take care of this whole problem next Tuesday.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you. We're now down to, unless you think we need to do something, I think that was just a good statement.
If the direction is then not to do anything, which was my recommendation, it's fine. I gave you a third option if you guys wanted to, but that's fine too. I'm good.
I agree with what Councilmember Hill just said.
I would concur too. Sebastian's been through a lot, and like I said, I don't recommend going after Councilmember Gillum in this case.
Do we need a consensus on that?
Well, I think if you agree with what the two of us just said, that's a consensus. We can't vote at this point in the meeting, so it's up to you, Vice Mayor Malty.
You can opine if you disagree with me, Vice Mayor.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, so you agree. So basically, I think that's three. Councilmember Parrish, do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so I think there's a direction statement there. All right. Okay, city manager matters.
I don't really have anything to add at this point, but thank you.
Madam Clerk. Okay, Councilmember Gilliams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were a few comments made at the public input that I would like to have a chance to respond to. And I can't go into specific and details because of the fact that it is allegations and it's going to be heard like everything is heard when there's allegations. You have your day in court, and I intend to have my day in court. So, but there was a scheduled meeting. There was 2 scheduled meetings that evening, and the doors were open, and there was public in here, and we did take videotape of that meeting, and it's on YouTube. You're welcome to go look at it. So the misinformation that they're putting out is not true. There was 8 people in here. The public was invited, and the doors were not locked. And if they were locked, it was because there were the maximum 10 people under the COVID-19 rules. So, and I'm not going to mention that person's name. She's not here, and I don't think it's fair. As far as the other young lady that was individual, I'm going to, she, Mrs. Sullivan, talked about the charter. And I know that I've operated under those charter rules from day one. And I always felt that those are the bylaws of this corporation, this municipality, and the charter is how we operate as 5 individuals on this dais. Again, I want to extend also an apology to Mrs. Andrea Ring as to what she exhibited or what problem that she had at the budget hearing the other night. I thought that was terrible, and that when we have people that want to participate in our government and in our budget process, we should show appreciation. So I thought that was pretty wrong of how that was handled. As far as the annexation goes, there's a lot of rumors going on about how that was handled. All you have to do is go to the tapes, and the public can see for themselves that there was an annexation agreement that was done. Was it done to the liking of everybody in the community? I would say not. We have environmentalists in this community. We have conservation organizations, at least 3 of them that I know of off the top of my head. The Friends of the Sebastian River, the Audubon Society, the Clean Water Coalition. These are very important organizations that wanted to have a say in that annexation agreement. And when you put an annexation agreement together, I think it's imperative that it's fair for all parties. The county, our neighbor to the west, Fellsmere, and everybody should have been involved with that. And that's what the interlocal agreement is all about, and the urban service line. And that was not addressed. When you give an agreement to somebody who wants to annex into our community, and you count on that tax money to come into this community to pay for future infrastructure and repave roads, and you say, well, we're going to let you stay in our community as agriculture, which, by the way, was not on our comp plan. We don't collect money on agriculture. They put their cattle on agriculture, they graze, they get an exemption. People grow trees on their property, they don't pay taxes. So that's another reason why I felt that the annexation agreement needed to come back to this community. I'm not saying I'm against annexation, but I'm in favor of making sure that everybody gets a seat at the table and it's done properly where everybody can sign off on it and it's not pushed through. And the mayor indicated in his meeting here in City Hall that it could have been done differently, and I respect that he came out and said that. And we should not have to spend X amount of dollars litigating that to get where we are today. So, and remember, annexation in the beginning it's like a sugar high. You grab the piece of property and you bring it in. Okay, but you got to have the taxes for those roads for decades to come and for the infrastructure to come. We have so many problems with the existing roads that we have in this community that's only 80 to 85% built out. Okay, so we're anticipating on taking another 1,100 acres, bring it into our community under agricultural taxation, which brings us no income, and we still have our own roads that are in disrepair. And I want to thank the city manager for moving forward with the stormwater, because that's critical with the canal system and getting that master plan on track so that we can go out for grants and funding to get our community back into shape. But you cannot do it under an existing annexation agreement that does not bring taxes into the community. And that was projected for, they anticipated, well, it's not going to happen for 10, 20, 30 years. So those are some of the reasons why I was against annexation for the time being. I'd like to offer another invitation, if I'm here, to the gentleman to come back. But let's just do it right and full transparency, and let's get proper representation at the table so everybody can have a say. And that annexation document has got to have everybody's signature on it, not just a few select people in this community. I might have upset a few people in this community when I made promises that I was going to follow through on city surplus property, and I meant it. When I ran for office, I said that if there's assets in this community that belongs to this community, and we were told that that property was going to be, the sugar stand was going to be sold off, and it never got sold off. I made it my passion and my business to keep my promise to the people that voted me in, that I would get to the bottom of that. And I'm not done yet, because it's still on my desk. And I may have to take this city to task to make sure that we hold people accountable for giving away surplus property. So I just want to make sure that the people know when they voted for me that I kept my word, that I was going to put a moratorium on the spraying of the canals, because all canals lead to the river, and the spraying in our parks. I promised them that I would look into it and find alternative solutions, and I kept to my word on that. And I intend to keep to my word if they decide to keep me here. Everybody, I think, knows how I feel about plan unit developments and developers coming into our community and developing these subdivisions on 60-foot lots, when the majority of our town is 80 by 125-foot lots. So in essence, what that does is they're coming in, they're putting 10 pounds of sand in a 5-pound bag, they put their little clubhouse up there, they put their roads in, they're going to turn it over to the city, but in reality, 60-foot lots don't bring the same price as 80-foot lots. And there needs to be a consistency when we develop our community, that we should not have subdivisions that are sliding in and stacking house on top of house. It should be minimum 80. We would like to see 100-foot lots on frontage by 150 deep. Maybe like the county's got it, 1 unit per 5 acres. It's going to impact our roads. It's going to impact our ramps for the boats. There was nothing in any annexation agreement that I saw that calculated for additional ramps. So again, these are the things that I ran on. I did talk about the economic development at the airport. I did vote to develop the new hangars that are out there, to create new jobs for the community, because I believe that industrial airport property should be utilized for that. I was not in favor, and everybody knows, I was not in favor of an $8 million garage for this community at this time, with $500,000 going for engineering and architectural plans. I thought we could have put that off for another year. I think we could have workshopped that with 3 new individuals that were up here, but I got outvoted, and I respect my fellow council members that they did not agree with me, and obviously we have to just move on. So, if for some reason I don't make it back up here, I want to thank this community for giving me this opportunity. I'm glad that I can bring attention and bring people into this chambers to discuss our problems. Because nobody showed up here. Nobody would watch the meetings. And if I've accomplished that, then I did good for this community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome, sir. Councilmember Hill.
Let me get that on. It's important. I look forward to hearing all of those arguments in the future. They'll, of course, hopefully be limited to 5 minutes, but I digress. I want to thank everyone for showing up to the fireworks on Saturday. All of those who showed up out there. It was a heck of a show. It's really great to see so many people out there enjoying themselves. I think Sebastian needed a kick in the arm, or a shot in the arm. I don't want to say kicking where it should be, but a shot in the arm to get us going. I think it felt really good to be out there watching, and it was a heck of a display. I found out afterward that the display was shortened because of the rain. I had no idea it was such a great show. So kudos to the city of Sebastian. Great job on that. And that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
All right. Councilmember Parrish.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dodd. First and foremost, I guess I have to correct another ambiguous false statement by the Sebastian Daily Tabloid. Yes, when I heard about the grants, naturally as a small business suffering, I was excited. And yes, I went to the city clerk and filled out page 1. Then learning the conditions, I refrained from completing the application. I don't know why it's that important, but it's been a pleasure to help all of my small business friends. 15 came immediately to mind because we are all in this together. And I agree with Councilman Gillian that we have definitely accomplished, raising awareness and getting involved in the community. I will continue to work for the health and the welfare of this community, whether it be on council or on the grassroots level, which is very powerful, which you've all learned recently, and I'm proud of you. I'm very proud to live in this community because I've had the honor of being associated with people like Colleen Phillips and Dr. Holly Hamilton, directly and indirectly. They've touched lives, and we're a community, and we need to work together. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Malte.
I just want to thank everybody for showing up, doing their civic duties, and thank you for your support. Good night, all.
Okay, it's my turn. I too really enjoyed the fireworks. We were close to Indian River Drive, a couple of lawn chairs in front of our car, had a great view of it, and then the rain came, but it wasn't bad. And there were surprisingly a large group of people who didn't let the rain bother them. They continued to watch. And I'm sure that the people in the boats out there had a different issue that they had to deal with.
Didn't bother us at all.
And I do have to say a couple of things that I've made some notes as people have talked on this. There was a comment made about business being done behind closed doors. I want to tell everybody out there has never, in my experience, in the time that I've been on this council, any business done behind any closed doors. I have the only closed door, and I agree with what was made a comment. And I will tell you, I was here at 6 o'clock on April the 22nd. That door was locked. People were not allowed to come in. That meeting is the reason that everything's going on. And I actually agree 100% with Damian Gilliams about the one thing, is that this group of three has been actually responsible for generating a massive amount of interest in the community, and I hope it continues and doesn't die. It's that type of community participation that we have not had in the past. That annexation that everybody complained about went through at least 7 public hearings, and no one showed up. And I know there's arguments about whether somebody came at one P&Z meeting or not, and I know that people came to one of the council meetings, but in the early stages of this, there was nobody showing up. And if it wasn't during an election year, no one would have showed up for those other 2 probably, because there wouldn't have been anybody using that as an election issue. And so I'm very excited about the level of public input, and I congratulate the citizens for doing that. The integrated pest management program that's going on is going to continue. For the one speaker that came up and said they hope that doesn't continue, that's going to be done. It's just COVID-19 has made that very difficult to do that. Graham Cox, who's one of the members, is up north. Before he left, the whole thing kind of slowed down because they can't do some of the stuff they're doing. It's going to continue. And I want everybody to understand that the integrated pest management plan didn't start last March. The integrated pest management plan started in 2018 when this council, the previous council, voted to direct the city manager to put together an integrated pest management plan. Having to figure out just exactly what that was, it took him a while to get it going, and he actually presented his version of that to this council. And it was as a result of that the city implemented the task force that was put together out of the Natural Resources Board that has produced the first version of that. I think it's important for everybody to understand that didn't start last March. It started in 2018. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. It did start. And I will tell you that in 2018, we chose to not tell the city manager not to use glyphosate, but to tell him to reduce as much as possible the use of it to produce a best management plan, because the statements that were made that were most logical were we have to do best management practices, and we can't just stop doing what we're doing until we do best management practices. And that, I believe, is where we're headed. Once again, this whole thing about the recall, and I didn't say a word to anybody tonight who was talking politics at any of the microphones. I know I just chose and decided before the meeting I wasn't going to say anything. But I want to say straightforward that the recall would not have happened if there hadn't been an illegal meeting on the 22nd day of April. It's that simple. I just don't believe it would have been possible to get through the process if it hadn't been there. And the courts have ruled that, and it's real simple. The courts have ruled it. So, and we have to move forward now past that, and we have to consolidate this city, and we have to consolidate the council, and we have to get past all of that. So that's all I've got to say. Now, I have been informed by the city attorney now, and I think it's important that we start doing the right thing, that we have been adjourning this council without a motion to adjourn. And he says we have to do that. And I told him I've been on the council 4 years and we've never done it before.
That's not true.
But since he told me that we should do that, I would like to hear if there's a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.